Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of our Kotlin Multiplatform social media app series. My name is Patrick, and in this video, we are going to focus on adding the edit profile functionality in our shared code. This is for allowing users to update their profile information such as the name, the bio, and the profile picture. We'll start by defining the necessary model and API service method that will interact with our backend. Then, we will connect everything through our repository, making sure we handle the profile update and manage image uploads correctly. In the next episode though, we will focus on building out the Android presentation layer, mainly the view model because we already have the UI. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, the first thing we need to do is define a data class that will represent the parameters we'll send to our backend when updating the user profile. Now head over to your shared module and then inside profile remote models.kt file, let's add the following code snippet right below our remote profile data class. This update user params class is a simple data model that contains all the information the backend expects when we update a user's profile. It's marked with @serializable, allowing us to convert it to a JSON when making requests. Now, the parameters are pretty straightforward. We've got the user ID, which identifies the user whose profile we are updating, and the name and the bio, which represents either the current values or the new ones the user wants to update. Lastly, we have the image URL. This is optional and it always holds the URL of the previous profile image if one exists. If the user is updating their profile picture, we won't send the new image as part of this object. Instead, it will be uploaded separately as a file. Alright, now that we have defined the model for the profile update, it's time to implement the API call to send this data to our backend. We are going to add a new method to the account API service class, which will handle sending both the profile data and the optional profile image to the server. So let's open account API service class and add this new method called update profile. So right below get profile, we'll define this new method, update profile. Now, the profile data parameter is the JSON representation of the update user params model we defined earlier. This will be sent as part of the form that are under the key profile data. We have an optional image byte, which is a byte array of the image that we want to update. Inside this method, we are going to use the function submit form with binary data to send both the profile data and, if provided, the profile image. Alright, now in here, we first append the profile data JSON under the key profile_data as expected by our backend. Then, if the user is uploading a new image, we will add that under the key profile image and pass it as the value. Alright guys, now a quick fix here that you will not see in the next clip. While editing this video, I actually realized that I forgot to pass the headers argument to the append call. We need to do so to specify metadata for the file being uploaded. Otherwise, our Kotlin backend will not be able to process and save this file. Okay, now then, let me open these curly braces and we will first add this endpoint to point to /profile/update. We set the token for authentication and use this helper function setup multi-part request to ensure the correct headers are added. We also set the method to be an HTTP method.post because that's what our backend is expecting. All right, now next we need to define this set multi-part request function, which will add the appropriate content type header for multi-part form data. Now, since this isn't the only place we will need to send multi-part request, we will define this function as an extension of HTTP request builder in the Kotlin API class. All right, we can command click on set token, and this will bring us inside our Kotlin API. And right below this set token extension function, we will define this setup multi-part request extension on HTTP request builder, and we'll set the content type to be content type.multipart.form data. All right, now let's come back here inside account API service. From here, we'll need to finally return a new object of type profile API response. For the code, we'll pass HTTP response.status, and for the data, we'll call HTTP response.body. With these pieces in place, we now have a method that can handle sending the updated profile data and an image file to our backend in a single API request. Next, let's move on to the repository layer. We'll start by defining a new function in profile repository interface that will handle the profile update. So let's go ahead and open profile repository and add the following function. Right below get profile, let's define this new suspend function update profile that takes two parameters, profile object, which contains the updated data, and an optional image byte parameter for the profile image. It returns a result containing the updated profile on success. Now let's move on to the profile repository implementation, and we'll override this function and implement the logic. Right below the get profile function, we'll need to override this newly added function update profile. Alright, now in here, we will use our safe API utility to ensure our API request is wrapped in a proper error handling. Inside safe API, we start by retrieving the current user data from our local preferences, which contains the token for authentication. Next, we need to encode the profile data into a JSON string, which will be sent to our server. Here we are using encode to string from JSON that comes from our Kotlin serialization library to transform our profile object into a format that our backend can understand. For the serializer, we call updateUserData.serializer. This function should be generated from the Kotlin serialization library when you annotate a data class with this serializable. Then for the value, we just instantiate a new object of type updateUserParams. For the user ID, we'll pass profile.id. For the name, we'll do the same, profile name. For the bio, we pass profile.bio, and for the image URL, we also pass profile.image URL. Now with the profile data serialized, we make the actual network request using account API service.update method. We pass the user authentication token, the encoded profile data, and any image byte if the user is updating their profile picture. Once we get a response from the server, we check if the status code is okay, which means the operation was successful. And at this point, we handle two different scenarios. If an image was included in the update, we need to make another API request to retrieve the latest version of the user's profile. This is necessary because our backend only returns an acknowledgement when the update is successful, not the updated profile data itself. Now, I want to point out that this is not the most efficient approach. Ideally, the backend should return the updated profile in the same response, which would save us an extra API call. However, since we are now modifying our backend right now, we will use this workaround. Now, after we have retrieved the latest profile data, we update the image URL variable, which we have defined here and initialized with profile.imageURL. And finally, we will create an updated profile object by making copy of this profile that was passed here and setting the image URL and save the updated data to the preferences. Now, once that is done, we return result.success and we pass in here the updated profile. Now, if something went wrong during the API call, we return a result.error with the message from the server. So to summarize, let me bring this. We are first of all making an API request to our backend to update the user profile. If the API was successful, we check to see if an image was uploaded. And if so, we make another API request to retrieve the latest user profile information. And then we create a copy of the profile, setting in the image URL that should be updated if the image was uploaded. We then store that in our preferences and return it as a result. Now, as mentioned earlier, it's better to avoid making multiple API calls when you can. One solution would be, for example, to modify your backend to make it return the updated profile immediately after a successful update, which will make your app more efficient. Now that we have set up the repository, it's time to create the update profile use case. So let's go ahead inside the use case package and let's create a new Kotlin class. We'll name it as update profile use case. Now first, this class needs to extend coin component. This allows us to use dependency injection via coin. Then in here, we inject a new instance of profile repository by using this function here from coin inject. Now the invoke operator function is where we perform the actual work of the use case. It takes in a profile, an optional image byte, and returns result of type profile. Now inside this function, we start by validating the profile's name and bio field. We use Kotlin's with function to perform validation directly on these fields. In this block, we are getting this string or this feed as the receiver, and so we don't need to call profile.name.isBlank again and again for all these conditions. Now note that for the name here we are checking 3 conditions. First, it shouldn't be blank, right? And then the length should be at least 3 characters, and it should not exceed 20 characters. If any of these conditions fail, we return result.error with an appropriate error message from our constant class. Now, of course, we'll need to import result and constant from our common.util package. Next, we validate the bio feed checking 2 conditions. It shouldn't be blank, and its length should not exceed 150 characters. Again, if the input is invalid, we return a result error message with the appropriate invalid input bio message. Now you will find these constant from my GitHub repository, and it will be available in the video description. Now, if both the name and the bio pass validation, we will then proceed to call the update profile function from the profile repository. This will handle the actual network request and return a result with the updated profile. All right, I think that's it for the update profile use case. Now, lastly, we'll need to go inside the DI package and open shared module.kt. Now, here inside the account module, we'll need another factory, and this is going to be factory of update profile use case. Of course, we need to import this. All right, that wraps up the short code for the edit profile functionality. In this video, we defined the update user params data model, implemented the update profile API call, handled the business logic in the repository, and created the update profile use case to validate and process profile updates. In the next video, we will switch over to the Android side and build the UI for the edit profile screen, where users will be able to change their profile details and upload a new profile picture. Thanks for following along, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already to stay updated with the next part of the series. Now, as always, take care. I will see you in the next one. Bye.